All right, what's up, guys? So we're here in Bella Vista. We're at the Kamado. What is it called? Mimo. I think it's Mimo. Dume. It's Dume. Dume. I call it Mimo because it's on the top of the bill. Say Mimo Bodega. That's what everybody. That's what most people know about. But you say some people know about Dume.
When I put it on that post, everybody kept saying Dume.
Dume. Oh.
I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
But listen to what Jay got to say.
Matter of fact, this one here is right down the street from Fusions. Right here on this street is Fusions where I go to the cigar bar at. So if you guys, you want to come over here, check it out. But anyway, man, I wanted to bring Jonah on. Jonah is a content creator also on IG.
Ever thought about leaving and starting over? That's exactly what I did. I sold my cars, I sold my house, I sold my businesses, and I moved my family from the United States to the Dominican Republic.
And also he's Dominican. So I wanted to sit down, talk to him about, it's a little bit different because Jonah grew up in the States. He's Dominican, but he grew up in the States. So he's not, I would say, like I don't know, I was gonna ask you this question. Maybe I ask you now, do you consider yourself an expat?
No.
Nah, okay. Nah. So he don't consider himself an expat, but we're gonna get into that. But first, I'm gonna let Jonah introduce himself, man.
What's up, everyone? Jonah here. Thanks for taking the time to allow me to be here and share a little bit about my move from the U.S. And the only reason, just to clarify, why I said what I said was, you know, both my parents are Dominican. I came here growing up, and it's always been a dream. And the only reason why I don't consider myself an expat is because, you know, this is my roots. This is my motherland. And so, you know, someone that I growing up here, obsessed with the culture. Some people would say I'm more Dominican. Some Dominicans, because, you know, living abroad, I got that nostalgia of wanting to live here. So we'll get into all that here in a bit.
Yeah, we definitely gonna get into that. Yeah, because I got some questions to ask him. So I'm gonna put him on the hot seat today. Ooh. So as I mentioned, you were born in New York.
Correct.
And you grew up in Texas.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Texas.
Yeah, so
being a Dominican.
Yeah, so I grew up in Austin. So I grew up in Austin, Texas, the capital. And being Dominican was not me growing up in Texas wasn't your traditional Dominican story. Why? Because many Dominicans that migrate to the U.S. usually migrate to New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Florida. And when I grew up in Texas, I remember people didn't even know where Dominican Republic was. People started knowing where Dominican Republic was, I believe it was '99 when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire had their home run competition when they were breaking the record for the 70 home runs.
Gotcha.
That's when people started to know where Dominican Republic was. So it took me all the way through middle school to people to actually know what Dominican Republic was. That a lot of people thought I was black or Mexican, right? So no one ever thought I was Dominican. They didn't know what Dominican Republic was.
Right.
And it was completely different. We didn't have Dominican food. We didn't have Dominican music. So it was an adjustment for me. Which is why I think I craved it so much, because I didn't have it like many of the Dominicans that moved to the Washington Heights or Florida that had the Dominican community there in the Heights. So it was different, but I'm thankful for my parents for allowing me to come every summer and spending the summers here and getting to know the culture, getting to know the people, getting to know the way of life, and you know, I'm thankful for that. But it was different. Growing up as Dominican.
Right. You know, I was going to say that because my first interaction with Dominican was in 2007 when my wife and them came over to Alabama, because you're over 30 years old, right? 35 years old. So back 35 years ago, I know it wasn't in Dominican, that was in Texas.
No.
You know, mostly in the South, we were familiar with people from Central America, which are, you know, Mexicans, Guatemalans, Salvadorians and Hondurans. So yeah, that is kind of interesting to know that a Dominican grew up in Texas back then, because most of them are known for being in New York in the northeastern part of the country.
Yeah, and the only reason we ended up in Texas was because my mom studied at the University of Texas.
Gotcha.
That's how we ended up there.
Okay.
And then we had some an uncle there, but literally we were the only Dominicans that were there in Austin. And when you found a Dominican, it was like you struck gold. You were like, oh, like, you know, because it was rare, man. It was rare. It's like you played the lotto whenever you saw one, because it was like, you know, diamond in the rough.
Right. So did your Dominican background influence your upbringing in the U.S.?
So I think the values and the morals, because here it's very big on respect. you know, respecting your elders, like the etiquette. My dad was real big on that. So my parents tried to instill a lot of those values that were not as common. You know, we would eat at the table every single day. I wasn't allowed to eat, you know, in front of a TV.
Right.
You know, I had to be respectful. Obviously, it's big in Latin culture, you know, respect your elders. So it did influence a lot, and that influence is why I'm here today, I believe.
Gotcha.
You know, because I really appreciated it. It allowed me to, you know, my life isn't perfect. I went through my ups and downs, and I believe because of my upbringing, it allowed me to overcome some of the more difficult stages of my life.
Gotcha.
Because of the values that were instilled in me. And family was a big one.
Gotcha. And so, was it any traditions or customs that your parents or family maintained while you were living in the States?
Yeah. Traditions. Let's see here. I mean, like I said, a lot of the family values were real big.
Right. Which are still big here now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And which is one of the big reasons why it attracted me to come to Dominican Republic, because I feel like we're losing that in the States.
Right.
You know, you see a lot of people who, you know, it's normal. It's like, I haven't talked to my parents like in 3 years. Like, I hate my parents. And okay, that's something I can say. Like, as far as, I will never forget this. In 7th grade, I told my dad I hated him.
Wow.
And it crushed him. Because that's a word that's commonly used over there,
Right.
but it's not commonly used here.
Gotcha.
And that was one of the moments that it clicked. It was like, whoa, hold on, like these are two different backgrounds. And it was like almost like a culture shock, right? Because my parents grew up in the States. I mean, sorry, my parents grew up in DR. I grew up in the States, right? So they were also adapting to the culture over there.
Right.
So they tried to maintain as many traditions as they could. But at the same time, you know, we also had to acclimate to the lifestyle in the United States as well, because like I said, that we didn't have that Dominican community, that, you know, the Dominican Day Parade, the festivities that they have in those heavier Dominican populated communities in the States.
Gotcha. So Texas is known for their barbecue. Known for their barbecue. And it's also, the South in general is known for soul food. I know you have a favorite barbecue place in Texas, but did you grow up eating some soul food in Texas?
Man, to be honest with you, not really.
Okay.
Not really, to be honest. And the thing was, like, it was mostly barbecue and a lot of Mexican food.
A lot of Mexican food, okay.
I had a lot of like friends that were like Mexican, so like, you know, like tortillas, like that was more of the other thing was, like, in Austin, it was interesting because Austin, it was like it was either you were white or Mexican. There wasn't really like a African American community there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's not, and that's one of the things that kind of like shied me away from Austin, because it wasn't as like diverse. Exactly. That's one of the things I didn't like about Austin. Now, if you go to Houston,
right,
you know, or Dallas, that's different.
That's different.
You have a much larger crowd.
Okay.
But I mean, shoot, I can go for some like mac and cheese, like, some brisket. I mean, shoot, some cornbread.
So, what was it like balancing American culture and Dominican culture in the U.S.?
And it was difficult at first, because one of the things that I always say is identity crisis. In Spanish, we say ni de aquí ni de allá. You're not from here, nor you're from there.
Right.
Right? Because when you're in Texas, you're not American, because they see you as an immigrant.
Right.
And then when you come here, they see you as American.
Right.
They see you as American, right? So it's difficult. But I adapted well. I had friends that were, you know, Mexican. I had friends that, like, I used to have a lot of Central Americans. That's a really good point. And I had friends that were, you know, from the States. So I think one thing about me is I acclimate to my environment extremely well. And so that was something that I didn't really struggle with, I believe, until I got into my like high school years, where I believe that people started to migrate more towards their race, and that's something that I don't know if you saw that in Alabama, but in Texas, it's like once I graduated high school, I saw that the Latinos would go with Latinos, whites would go with whites, and it was kind of crazy. It was kind of like segregation, which is like, I don't know, it was crazy, because during school, I had friends from everywhere. But then when I graduated, it was like, man, like I thought we were cool.
Right.
So like that was kind of like a shock to me when I left high school. Like some of my best friends, like that's how I listened to country music. Because one of my best friends introduced me to it. But once we went to high school, it was like we went our own way. So I thought that was interesting, which was why I started becoming a little bit more obsessed with moving to Dominican Republic, going back to my roots, going back to my culture and things of that sort.
Gotcha. So you basically said your parents maintained you having that strong connection to Dominican Republic because they not only did they were born here and they had some of those values, but you also were coming back and forth during the summers or whatever, and multiple times a year. So did you ever feel torn between your Dominican roots and your American upbringing?
No, I always rep DR. Always. I always rep DR. I will tell you that right. Look, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna see if I can find a picture so I can post it here. Right. In second grade, we had I don't know if you ever did it, but track and field day in school. Or we had to rep a country.
Right.
And we rep Dominican Republic. My second grade class, Cassis Elementary in Austin, Texas. I rep my DR, so I was always proud of it, man. Always proud of DR. Cool. I never shied away from that, ever. No. So, but there are things that I value. For example, my organizational skills, being on time, being punctual. Because here, it's Dominican people time is
right. It doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist. Punctuality don't exist.
Yeah. So my business, my business mindset, a lot of the things that I learned over there. I'm not saying that but for me, I always try to stay true to these values because this is what people identified me as over there. People never saw me as American over there,
right?
Which was hard for me, Even
when you were born there, they didn't see you as American. They didn't see you they just saw you as an immigrant.
Man, I have an American passport. My daughters were born there. My wife was born there. I went to school there. And when people ask me where I'm from, I would say Texas, but they're like, no, where are you really from?
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean where I'm really from? And so those are the things that started to question. I'm like, all right, well, am I going to live this life for the rest of my life where people aren't going to accept me or even acknowledge that I'm from here?
Gotcha. Yep.
So that was hard for me in a way. So that's why I kind of stuck to my Dominican roots a lot.
Gotcha.
And plus, our culture is beautiful.
Right.
Our food, the people. I mean, those are things that always attracted to me, especially the food.
Yeah. I gotta get into that. The food is good.
Like the food, un pollo guisado,
right.
Un chivo.
Yeah.
Un pescado frito. You know what it's about, Jay.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think of one of my favorite things is that forgot my daughter loves it too. I can't, but it's chicken and rice. I forgot what you call it.
Arroz con pollo, locrio.
Locrio.
Yeah,
I like locrio.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
Jay's Dominicanized already. I sent you that message the other day too. I said you have the honorary Dominican. Remember you were cooking?
Oh yeah, when I posted the chin chin. Oh yeah. Hey, once you eat that chin chin, you by default, you're Dominican. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we spoke off camera before about you having a business. So what business are you in over in your business in the US, right?
Correct.
And what is your business?
So I have several different ventures out there. When I started 13 years ago and I quit the whole 9-to-5 gig, I started a mobile detailing business. That transformed into a paint protection shop /tint. So that's paint protection film, car wraps, window tint. And then we also have a building maintenance venture out there in Austin that focuses on janitorial, building maintenance, things of that sort for commercial properties.
And how did you get into the auto detailing? It's because that's the basis of your business, right?
Yeah, so in 2010, I moved from Austin to DC. I needed a change of life, I needed a change of pace, and I found a niche. I was like, in Austin, I was used to having a car wash in every single corner. I always like my cars to be clean. However, in DC, it didn't exist. You couldn't go and pull up to a car wash. You couldn't just go and get your car detailed. You had to pretty much dig online and find that. So I decided to buy some detailing supplies, throw it in my car, and offer something that really didn't exist, which was mobile detailing. And that the rest is history. We ended up expanding to a couple of vans, a couple of cities across the country, started franchising the brand. And fast forward to today, we were in 8 different markets, but I ended up selling the business.
Oh, you sold the business? Okay.
So I sold the business, but started a PPF and tint shop recently.
Gotcha. Because I was going to ask you, how did you identify the need of that market that your business addressed? And you just said it because in DC, there were no auto detailing. You wanted to get your car done. That's kind of weird that they didn't have that in DC.
No, and I don't know if it's because it was like the capital or whatnot, but you know, the DMV is DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Right.
And I mean, you know the tunnel car washes that I'm talking about, that they have a lot in the South.
Oh,
like literally,
right,
you have them everywhere. Those didn't exist. They still don't exist in DC.
Wow.
You know, you can't find one like in that area. So one of the things that I understood was people like convenience. People like being catered at home.
Right.
If I can go to your house, take care, service you at home without you having to go anywhere,
Right.
sold.
Yep.
Right. And the number two thing is like if I can provide the service, which I told you earlier about being punctual, being on time. If I say I'm going to be there at 9 a.m., I'm going to be there at 8:45. You know, if I tell you it's going to take 2 hours, it's going to take 2 hours.
Right.
I'm not going to go over time because, you know, time is money.
Right. Yep.
So that was for me, it's finding a need. And that's one of the things I tell people that want to move back to DR. It's like we get criticized a lot because we lack sources, but if we lack something as an entrepreneur, I see it as an opportunity.
Right.
Right. And so whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a car wash or whatever the case, if something lacks it, that's an opportunity for me.
Right.
That's how my entrepreneur mind works.
Right. And what's some of the challenges you face along your entrepreneur journey, especially with detailing?
Ooh. Winters.
Yeah, that's when the money goes down.
Winters.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that makes sense.
Winters, being told that, you know, one of the jobs that I worked, I was a bellman. And I worked as a bellman, and that's where I got the idea too, because I saw that people would go to the hotel and wash their shuttles, because I worked at the DoubleTree by Reagan National Airport, and so there would be shuttles that go pick up guests and the pilots from the airport. And I saw someone that would go, and I remember they made $700 per wash, and they would only be there for like 2 or 3 hours. Well, I was like, you know what? If these guys can make money, I can make that type of money.
Right.
But guess what happened? Like when I went and I asked the manager if I can wash it, she told me, yeah, you can. She's like, but there's a conflict of interest. You can't wash vans while being an employee here. I said, well, what if I quit the job? What if I set up my LLC? What if I get my insurance? What if I do all those things? Can I do it? She said, yeah. I quit my job. When I went back, she said no. I had no savings.
Wow.
I had no money, and I was counting on that contract. So I was literally broke. I didn't want to ask my parents for money, right? But that was probably the best gift or the best thing that could have happened to me, because it turned this fire within that still hasn't burnt out till this day.
Yeah. Man.
Because it's a position I never want to be in again. That was rough. Like I will never forget that day.
Yeah. You know,
Melissa, if you're watching this, I made it. Melissa, DoubleTree, Reagan Airport. Yeah.
You know, I got a video out. Matter of fact, I'm working on now. It's called Finding Opportunities in Misfortunes, and that's exactly what you did.
And the thing is, you have to understand that life is going to throw you curveballs. It's not easy.
Right.
You know, the 1% is the 1% for a reason.
Right.
They overcome obstacles. They overcome recessions. They overcome difficult economic times. You know, right now in the U.S. are going through a recession. It's a difficult challenge. However, during those times are when most millionaires are made.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things that, you know, if you're gonna sit here and, you know, create excuses for yourself, no one's gonna feel bad for you.
Nope.
You know, no one's gonna feel bad for you. So you have to believe in yourself. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. And one of my favorite quotes by Napoleon Hill is, whatever the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve.
Right.
And so you have to really, really be focused and honed in on what you want, and not allow outside distractions to get in the way of your goal and your ambitions, because one of the things that a lot of people often do is surround themselves with the wrong individuals. Those wrong individuals, you know, tell you, oh, you know what, it's not possible. And because of those wrong individuals, you stay stuck in that position of, you know, comfort,
right,
and you never grow.
Exactly.
And that's why, one of the reasons why I left Austin to go to DC, because I was around those individuals who didn't believe in me, didn't believe in my dreams. And because they didn't believe in those dreams, they made me believe that I couldn't do it.
Right.
And, you know, fast forward to today, had I still been in that position, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
Exactly.
I'd probably still be working an hourly job, and I'd probably still be living at my parents' house, to be honest with you. Okay, so about you said one of the obstacles. Because I started this business in DC, and next time you meet my wife, ask her about this. I moved into an apartment. We had one of the most brutal winters in 2013. And I was detailing in 18-degree weather because I knew that's how I had to pay my bills, right? A lot of people would not do what I did.
Of course.
A lot of people will not go out there and get frostbites, but I knew that was the only way for me to be able to survive, right? A lot of people would have given up. A lot of people would have given themselves excuses.
Right.
So don't give yourself an excuse. If you give yourself an excuse, you're giving up on yourself, and you're the only person who's going to allow yourself, to be the difference between being average and being successful.
That's true. That's true.
That's Dominican as hell right there.
Yep, yeah. It's always going to be some noise. So I asked you earlier, did you consider yourself an expat? And you said no. But by you being born in the States, raised in the States, and spending very little time here throughout your whole life, why don't you consider yourself an expat?
Because I was conceived in DR.
Oh, yeah. All right, case closed. All right, that's the answer. Yeah. I think we can go with that one.
You like
yeah, I like that one. No more explanation.
I had to keep it 100.
Right.
No, man. No, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. And I know a lot of people use the word expat, but I have a funny. I'm not a fan of the word expat. And we can talk about it if you want. We don't have to talk about it.
I mean, give me a brief reason why.
Because the only people that are expats are people, Americans that move to other countries.
Right.
There are no expats in the United States.
Right.
Everybody's an immigrant.
Yeah.
That's why. So I feel like it's almost like a privilege thing.
Right. And that makes sense.
It's almost a privilege thing, like, because over there, like, if I was to say I was an expat, people would be like, no, you're not. You're an immigrant.
Right.
Right? But that same person that said that is going to go to another country to expat. Now, I had to educate myself on this because I used to say expat a lot.
Right.
But then I started talking to like locals around here and people and like what the perception of it was, and I was like, I understand now. And I didn't get it. So talking to like the communities and stuff like that. But you're different though. I mean, you have a Dominican wife. You embrace the culture. Unfortunately, a lot of people that move don't want to embrace the culture.
Right.
And that's where the problem is sometimes.
That's true. That's true.
Because coming out here like the motores and complaining about that's the culture here. You move to DR, you can't change that.
Right.
Right. So that's where the problem is. Now, if you come to DR and you adapt, man, call yourself what you want to call yourself.
Right.
But it's those people that come out here and want to act like they want to live that same American lifestyle. They move into a gated community and they don't embrace the Dominican culture, which is one of the most beautiful things about DR.
Right.
And it's like any country in the world. So that's why, just to clarify it, if you come to DR and you adapt, you want to learn, like yourself, you're eating the food, you're going to the campos, like that's different. But I know people that come out here that won't step foot in a bodega because they think they're too good for a bodega. Right. That's the issue that I have.
Right. That makes sense.
So I don't know if that helps out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And everybody's welcome in DR as long as you adapt.
I agree.
That's where it is. Now, if you come to DR, you are not welcome here if you don't adapt.
Right. I agree with that. All right. Don't come here trying to change the place.
Exactly.
Man. Don't come here trying to change.
Like, you moved here for a reason.
Right.
Like there was something that attracted you here in the first place, whether it was the people, whether it was the culture, whether it was the food. That's something that...
Or even the low cost of living. Even if that's it, in some areas, the low cost of living.
We were talking about that on the way here.
Right.
Santo Domingo is expensive.
Right.
Like Santo Domingo is almost like U.S. prices, because I pay like $2,000 for my apartment. So it's not cheap.
No.
But now if you go to Santiago, or like a rural area, you definitely gonna get your bang for your buck there.
Right. So we know most of the time Dominicans are lining up to head out from Dominican Republic, whereas you were pretty much lined up to head back. What was the reason for your decision for returning back here to Dominican Republic?
Man, like I said, from the beginning, it's just been the people. It's been how people are happy with having the littlest things. The Dominican Republic that I fell in love with is not the Dominican Republic today. The Dominican Republic that I fell in love with was no power, no water. Why? Because it taught me to appreciate the little things in life. Right. When I would come in the summers, we would have to sleep, and I made a video about this, we would have to sleep in what's called mosquiteros. Right? It's like a net that they put around the bed because the mosquitoes would eat you alive. Right? Because we didn't have ACs. The fan wouldn't work at night sometimes because there was no power. Right? But what? You didn't see people complaining. Right. You saw people outside talking. That's how I got to know my grandparents so well, and my family members, because we would go outside, we would talk to the neighbors, people would be laughing, people would be conversing. Imagine that in the States if the power goes out. You think people are gonna be outside talking?
Nope.
You know?
Not now, especially not now.
Exactly not now. But those are the things that made me come back. It's like, wow, these people are happy with the littlest things.
Right.
And then you go back, and I'm not gonna lie, I grew up in a very affluent neighborhood in the States, and you see kids that have iPads, kids that have Mercedes, kids that have everything that you would think that someone would need to be happy, and they're unhappy.
Gotcha.
And so it made me understand that it's not like the money or what you have, it's about from what's within.
Okay. Was there a specific moment that came in your life where you decided you wanted to make the decision to move?
When I had my girls.
Your girls, your daughters.
My daughters. My daughters. I feel like putting them into school here, the values that they've learned compared to like, you know, like a school over here, it's like the values.
Yeah.
Here, I don't have to worry about something happening to them at school.
Right.
Here, I don't have to worry about some crazy person like going in and doing, you know, what they do. Like, and like I said, the values is very important for me because I feel like that helps people throughout life.
Right.
Because when you have those values instilled at a young age, it's something it's hard to take away from that person.
Right. And I agree with that because even as a black man, American black man, we had values back in the 80s, man, that I still have for today, which really kind of correspond or similar to Dominican values up to date.
Yeah.
And it seems, and I ain't gonna say it seems, America has gotten away from those values. It has turned more into individualism. And for whatever reason, we can blame whoever we want to blame, but the fact is it no longer exists over there. So I think that's what really attracts me to Dominican Republic is the value, family values and the community values.
And to hit on that point, I don't think it was intentional, but over there, you got to work 2 or 3 jobs to survive.
Right.
So if you're working 2 or 3 jobs, who's raising the kids at home? Right. And then that's how kids, like, one of the things that I like here is the kids have to go to school in uniforms.
Yep. Right. So you don't get to wear the Jordans and all that.
Exactly.
Right.
So you like all that stuff, like, you know, gang affiliation. You notice there's no gangs, like really gangs here. We're one of the few Latin American countries without cartels. You know, there's crime, but we don't have that, like, because it's something that even public schools here, like, everybody has to go to school in uniform.
Right.
And that's how back in the States, I remember in middle school, that's when I got introduced to gangs.
Right.
You know, it was like the Bloods and the Crips or whatever. It's like you had to have the red laces and stuff. That wouldn't go here. Right. And so, like, my parents never understood that. They're like, what are you wearing? It's like, well, I see it at school. That's where I get it from, right? So my parents work hard as hell at home, but then I go to school, and that's where all that stuff is taught. Right. Whereas here, you're not going. That's not going to happen here. Right. You know.
Yeah. So what are some of your early childhood memories about Dominican Republic versus what you see right now? Because I know a lot has changed.
It has. Well, first of all, the water. I mean, the electricity. Like I said, here now you have, like, you know, power plants that the power goes out. I mean, in your building as well, you can't really tell if there's no, like, electricity because the power plant kicks on.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you may have to wait 2 or 3 seconds for the Wi-Fi to connect, but it's not like hours. I mean, literally, it would be days. I remember trucks would go by, and they would be like, agua a las 4 de la tarde, meaning water at 4 p.m. That's when it's coming on. So you would have to literally stand by your window, and I'll never forget this in my grandma's house, to hear when the water would come back on.
Wow.
Right? You don't really see as many, like, before, like, the buses. You would see a bunch of buses with people hanging out because mass transportation has improved here. Now in Santo Domingo, you have 300,000 to 400,000 people that use a train every single day. You know, that people don't even know a train exists in Santo Domingo. It's clean, it's safe, it's modern. And
you're right, because back in 2007, that's all you seen was those little buses with people hanging out the side of them.
Yeah, you don't really see that much anymore.
You don't even see that much.
I mean, you see traffic, but you see more cars, right? And so my thing is, it's like, if we're so poor, how are these people affording all these cars? Right? And so the perspective, something else that you didn't see how many foreigners back then, right? I mean, there's over 300,000 Americans in DR right now.
Yeah, right? I read that. Yeah.
You didn't see that before. It was just Dominican. Now you see people from Europe, the U.S., South America. You see a lot of Asians. Asians are the ones that surprise me the most. With that Dominican flow, bro, it's crazy. Like you don't think they talk Spanish, and then you start talking to them like, it's crazy. So those are things that have really surprised me. And then we were talking about it, all these buildings. These used to be all homes.
And now you got all these high rises.
These condos, it's crazy. So, and then development. I mean, Punta dude, Punta Cana wasn't even a thing. Punta Cana was not even a thing when I was growing up.
Flatland.
People never talked about Punta Cana.
Right.
It wasn't a thing. It was Puerto Plata. Santiago didn't even have an airport. Santiago's airport's like probably like 15, 20 years old.
So Puerto Plata was more talked about than Punta Cana?
Oh man, Puerto Plata was a place. Puerto Plata was the place.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Puerto Plata, like that was like the original like tourist destination in Dominican Republic. After like 9/11 and once Punta Cana, it started to decline.
Wow.
Right? But Puerto Plata has always been like the OG
Okay.
in Dominican Republic. You learned something new.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And before Santiago, the Puerto Plata airport was like the airport. People from Santiago would have to go to Puerto Plata to fly out of there.
Wow. Okay. So that airport was there before Punta Cana airport.
Yeah, Puerto Plata's like the OG.
Okay, that's the OG. Okay.
And it had cruise ports, and the cruises died, but now like the cruises have been coming back and the city's been revitalizing. So
Gotcha.
I like Puerto Plata. Definitely check it out.
Okay. So you're living in Santo Domingo right now.
Mm-hmm.
What part?
I live in Piantini.
Benzino. What made you choose that area?
It's centric. It's centric. It's safe. I mean, everything's around there. My kids' school's around there. So, you know, living in Santo Domingo, you want to be close to the things that you do.
Right.
You know, you don't want to be far because the traffic here is insane.
Yep.
So I wanted to be somewhere where if I had to walk, I could walk. I could walk to the grocery store. I can walk to, you know, whatever I need to walk to. So one of the things that when I moved here, I wanted to try to maintain, like, and I always say this, like that parallel, like lifestyle of living in the States.
Yep.
So
Same here.
I think that, you know, Naco, Piantini, I moved to Naco first when I lived here, and then moved to Piantini. But those neighborhoods definitely give you that. I mean, you have the malls there, you have the high-end restaurants, and it's extremely safe. I never feel like I'm in danger.
Yep. Yep. So most people probably surprised your wife is not Dominican, is she?
No, she's not.
So your wife is not Dominican. Your kids were born over in the States. So how has been adjusting for them being here? And how was it for you?
I tell anybody and everybody that's going to make a move, doesn't matter if it's Dominican Republic or wherever, give yourself 6 months to a year. I mean, even though I came here during the summer, living and vacationing someplace are two different things.
Totally, two totally different things.
Right? I mean, I told you, like last week I was sick, you know, going to the hospital, learning I know how to speak Spanish, but when it comes down to medical terminology, that's a whole different ballgame. Right? So having to adapt to that, adapting to the school, it was an adjustment to say that nonetheless. And I'm Dominican. My wife, I can't get her to go back to the States now. I think she's more Dominican than me.
Right.
And my daughters, my parents are still in the States, so my oldest had a tough time adjusting the first year because she missed my parents.
Right.
And she missed her house. But now she speaks fluent Spanish, fluent English, so she's adjusted. So the first year was a little bit challenging to say. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say it was like a smooth sailing. Opening bank accounts was difficult. Just doing like your day-to-day stuff and learning what's available was different because, you know, family will say it, but you know, you may like seafood, I may not like seafood. So it's one of those things that you have to find your I guess your comfort zone and what you like.
Yeah, and I recently did a video on adjusting to me adjusting to Dominican Republic. And I like what you said. You guys, he's Dominican, been coming over here his whole life, and he's telling you it was an adjustment period the first year. And I heard people say, oh man, I adjusted in 2 weeks, I adjusted in a month. There's no way in the world you can adjust that. You what you've done was tolerated some things for that amount of time, but you haven't adjusted because you can't live 30, 40, 50 years somewhere and then just get dropped off somewhere
And say you're like normal.
and like you adjust. It's impossible. So when he tells you, and even I told you in the video, it took me about 2 years to adjust. He's telling you the first year it took him to adjust. So keep in mind that the people that saying it took them a month, they're not telling you the truth.
Look, yeah, and here's the thing though, right? Like we talked about it earlier. I'll give you an example, right? My the first birthday party that we got invited to, it was at 12 o'clock. What did I tell you? I'm Americanized in that sense. I make it on time.
Bad choice.
So we showed up at 12:02. I'm thinking I'm late, I'm rushing. Only people that were there were ourselves and another American family that was living here. The rest of the party didn't show up till 2:30. This is a kids' party. They didn't show up till 2:30, and they were there till 11 o'clock at night. So it's those little things that I had to adjust to, right? Because I'm very punctual.
Yeah.
You know, but when you come here and you start to learn how things are, you start to understand that it's a slower pace of life.
Right.
Right? And you begin to embrace it, and then okay, you know what? That's what it is. If you go to a doctor's office and because your appointment's at 10 o'clock in the morning, that does not mean that you're gonna go in at 10 o'clock in the morning. That means that that's where they're gonna put you down and you're gonna sit there, and sometimes you're gonna spend half the morning there.
Right.
That's adjusting. Whereas in the States, 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock.
Right.
Right? Maybe 10:05, maybe a couple minutes. However, you're going to be in and out of there soon.
Yeah.
Those are things that took me some adjusting to do,
Right.
right? Because I thought that I was gonna go in and out. So now I know that if my daughters have a doctor's appointment, I block off the morning.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna be stressed about having to be somewhere else at a certain time. So yeah, now adjusting takes time because it's a lot of stuff, man. It's the electricity. It's setting up your bills, setting up all this stuff. You know that if you call a contractor, more than likely they may not show up, or they're gonna come up with an excuse. Those are things that I had to get adjusted to.
Right. So do you? And you probably answered this already. Do you think that your experience living in the U.S. and also part here has shaped you who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I like to make clear, and I think a lot of people misinterpret, especially with my videos on IG. If you see my IG, Jay Gives Back, you'll see I do a lot of comparisons. Right? And the reason why is because, like we said, when my parents left 30 years ago, a lot of the stuff that's available today wasn't available then.
Right.
Right? So I think that the U.S. has definitely molded me in ways, especially the way I conduct business, the way I do business, and then also my Dominican side with like the values and the morals, right? So I feel like it's like almost like a hybrid.
Yep.
Right? And I will never discredit the U.S. Just because I talk about it and compare it doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of it or I don't like it. It's just that, at this point in my life with my daughters, I'm seeking something different.
Yep.
And it's not all about work for me. It's not all about money. It's about living life.
Yep.
And I feel like here I can do it more freely without being judged, like over there, where it's like, if you want to take a week off vacation, your boss over there isn't going to make you feel, it's going to make you feel guilty. Whereas here, it's like,
Yeah.
go.
So, what advice would you give, like other Dominicans who really want to come back to Dominican Republic and live, but are kind of on the fence because of what they think of Dominican Republic of the past?
So, it depends on what Dominican you're talking about.
Okay.
Because you have Dominicans out there, and I hate to say it, I mean, we're gonna keep it 100 here, right? Like, you have Dominicans out there that like the U.S. because they live off government assistance, right? And it's hard for them to come back here because you don't have those government programs like you do over there. You're not gonna have that Section 8. You're not gonna have that government money coming in all the time. Right? So, like for me, the best advice is, do your due diligence, do your research, find like ways on how you can make money over there and try to bring it back over here, or create a plan. Set yourself up for success. Right? Don't just say that you want to move back to the Dominican Republic with no plan, because you're going to come over here and you're going to, in Spanish, tú vas a pasar trabajo. You're going to struggle. Right? So it's not like just a walk in the park either. It's setting yourself up for success. When I decided to initially make this move, it was 2012. I was working at Bellman job. I asked my cousin, hey, how much money do I need to make in order to live a good life here? He told me. I said, okay.
What number you give you?
$5,000 a month.
Okay.
This is in 2012.
Okay.
I said, okay, cool. I was like, damn, at that point I was like, man, that's how am I gonna do that? Because I was making $5 an hour as a bellman. But what did I do? I started creating a plan. I created my business. That's how. So I feel like my motivation and my hunger to return back home also inspired my entrepreneurial side and made me create those businesses so that I could have that financial independence in order to move back. Because finding a job here and the job market, yes, I do. I'm not blind. I do acknowledge that it is difficult to find jobs here. It is difficult to find, a good paying job here. I'm not saying that if you're going to move to the Dominican Republic, your life is going to be all dandy. However, if you're really living the American dream, then you should be able to set yourself up for success in order to be able to accomplish that and be able to live anywhere. I feel like. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what? When people say it's difficult to find jobs here, You know what I say? I don't think it's difficult to find a job. I just don't think it's enough job because it's a lot of people working here.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of people working here, and there's just not enough jobs.
But you know what? Now that you're talking about that, the same can be said for the States.
Right.
Because you know how many messages I get on a regular basis, people saying, man, I've applied to hundreds of jobs out here in the States and I don't even get a call back? It's the same. The difference about over there is that if you fall into a hole, you can get government assistance, whereas here you can't.
Right.
There was a podcast that I was watching. It was this guy. He's like, I just came back from Dominican Republic. And he's like, at the traffic light, I can get avocados, I can get a cell phone charger, I can get windshield wipers, I can get anything. And then I come back to the States, the wealthiest country in the world, and I see a guy standing there asking for money.
Right.
You know? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean,
but it's true.
Look at, how many people have we seen by here asking for money? People you saw a lady walking avocados, you see people like in the colmado, whatever. Now they may not be making millions, but they're still working.
And one guy wanted to walk over here and shine our shoes. I saw him with the
yeah.
But he saw we were talking.
Yeah. But you can't shine these though. These are
you can't. All right.
Man, I have a question for you though, man. Like, what was your biggest adjustment out here coming to DR?
I think the same thing you said, man, just the punctuality. And I said in that video, you know, adjusting to the weather, just Dominican culture as a whole, which includes
The avocados, you see?
Yeah, guy with avocados. Yeah, you know, people, customer service. What else? And just also even, and I said in that video, even just the friendly things that people do, like they always are speaking. You know, in America, people don't really speak to you in the mornings, or they don't speak to you. So sometimes you got to get used to some of the good things that people do here that are positive things that I say. So
I had to test my wife that because she's from DC. She's cold. Like, she's cold, and like now she says it like she's like, it feels good to be able to say buen dia. Right. You know, acknowledge people. Like, and it doesn't matter. You go to a barbershop, you say buen dia. Like,
right.
In the whole barber, hey, boom.
Right. Or saludo.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everywhere I walk now, I say saludo.
Exactly.
Or bon dia. You know what I'm saying? In the States, I just walk in the store and wouldn't say anything.
Or when I walked in here, you saw me, I said buen dia. Like I said.
And it ain't because in the States, I guess it's not considered rude, just people just don't do it.
And it's also what you said, though, it's very individualistic.
Yeah, right.
So it's all about me.
Right.
Well, here it's about we. Here you fall or whatever, people are going to run to you and help you out.
Right.
Whereas over there, if something happens to you, people are going to walk around.
They're going to walk up and pull out their phone and start filming.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get the views. That's cold, man.
Right. All right, so let's jump into social media, because the first time I seen your social media, your IG, was actually, I seen it, and it was before Jamie. You know, we got in contact with Jamie. I had already seen some of your reels. What inspired you to get on social media?
To be honest, man, just to share my story. And share a different perspective. I mean, one of the things that's unfortunate is that a lot of the hate that comes from like my posts are from Dominicans themselves from the outside. People that left DR that get upset to see the lifestyle I live here in DR because they don't think it's achievable, they don't think it's a reality, right? Where it's the same over there. Like, you know, people idolize celebrities out there. They don't say it's unachievable, right? But they idolize the Kardashians and all that stuff. So it's one of those things that kind of like upsets me because we have a lot of these things, like the Nacional. And Nacional is a nice grocery store, right? And people are like, oh, well, that's only the wealthy go. That's not true, because they have plates that you can get the plato del dia for like 200 pesos. And you see like people that are on lunchtime, that cafeteria is packed. It's packed. Yeah. It's not expensive. It's not 1,000 pesos. It's 200 pesos. You can get rice, beans. You can get your typical Dominican food for under $5, right? $6, right? Whereas you go to Whole Foods, you're not gonna find people that can buy something at Whole Foods for $5, $6. Nope. So when I do those comparisons, it's because, you know, I want to show people that, hey, look, we have made progress. We have made improvements. Right? Yes, I understand. I do acknowledge that not everybody does it. However, I do believe that the Dominican dream is alive. Right.
And I was, as a matter of fact, you probably went into it because I was going to ask you this. One thing about your content on IG is that it shows another side of Dominican Republic, which is positive, and which is one of the reasons why I gravitated to it, because I'm just tired of hearing all the doom and gloom about Dominican Republic. What do you think, and you probably just answered it, but maybe you want to expound a little bit, why do you think people don't like to see that? you talk, even me, I experienced it like, oh, if you say anything about, well, it ain't there. Every time a foreigner sees a Mercedes, he wants to say, oh, it ain't poverty in Dominican Republic. Or if he sees a nice building, they want to say, oh, it's no poverty in Dominican Republic.
Or it's money laundering.
Or it's money laundering. Just like, why do you think people have this negative reaction when you're doing something positive? But if you do something negative, you say, oh man, I got robbed, I got scammed, everybody...
It's like they expect it.
Yeah, they expect it and they pile in on it. Yeah, that's why I'm like, why do you think people act like that?
Well, I think, like I said, it's the type of Dominican, right? Like I tell people all the time, you never see middle class and upper class Dominicans leave the U.S.
Right.
Number one.
Leave the U.S.?
Leave Dominican Republic. You never see middle class and upper class leave Dominican Republic. They live like kings out here.
I haven't met anybody that's middle or upper class that wants to live over in the United States.
So that's number one. So then you ask yourself, who are the people that are leaving? People that are usually leaving are people that are in rural areas, in the campos, people that come from like lower income families and stuff like that. And so when they go to the U.S., right, they think that they're better than others, and they treat Dominicans like second-class citizens, right? And they're over there, but the thing is, they have this pride when they come back that they want to act like they're better than the Dominicans on the island, right? And so like it's like, oh, I made it out of DR, and you're still stuck in DR, so they think that they're above us.
Right.
So that's where it's the hate, because they couldn't achieve what the life that we're living here, and what many Dominicans here are living, you know? And so I think it's like a jealousy thing almost, right? It's an envy.
Right.
It's like, man, how are they able to do it over there, right? And so I really truly believe that that's what it is. It's like almost like a jealous thing. And what I tell people is that you can't compare, because let's just say where the most of them go to, New York City, right? You can't compare a rural area in Dominican Republic to New York City.
Right.
Right? So of course you're gonna, excuse my French, but SHIT on Dominican Republic if you're coming from a rural area.
Right.
Now I'll tell you right now, you go to a rural area here and you compare a rural area in the US, man, these rural campos are lit.
Right.
They're lit. They're lit, man. They're awesome. Like the food, the people, like it's completely different. You know, and one of the things that I'll say is, you know, people always criticize the safety. We've been here for almost like an hour sitting down.
With the camera out.
With the camera out, exactly. Right. And I haven't felt like any sort of threat. I'm not looking around like this, but my question is this. You're from Alabama.
Right.
How many people do you see on the streets in Alabama walking or sitting like outside? In Texas, I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
So how does that make sense?
Right.
You know, how is it that anywhere you go here, you see people in the colmada, you see people walking around, you see people talking, you see people cracking jokes, you see people laughing. And the biggest difference that I say is as soon as you land. As soon as you land in Dominican Republic, customs here, they're laughing, you see the people you go to the US, over there it's like, why were you on vacation?
Right. What
was the purpose of your trip? Why'd you go for 2 weeks?
Right.
What do you mean, bro?
And they don't even say welcome home.
Exactly,
Right.
And I have the American passport.
Right.
You know?
Like I can't leave?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the little things. You know, here people work to like live, over there people live to work.
Right.
And so I think that when people see people having a good time here in Dominican Republic and enjoying the country, I think it's a jealousy thing.
It is. I agree with that.
It's envious.
Straight up hate.
Exactly. Hey, and don't be hating. You know, I gotta tell people all the time, I'd rather be broke here than over there. Why? Because here I'm broke. You know what? I go to Colmar, I get my presidente. I go to the beach for free. People over there work 2 or 3 jobs to be able to come out here on vacation for a week.
That's it.
I mean, I can't say any better than that. So of course I would hate.
Right.
Of course. If I got to work overtime and I got bags under my eyes, of course I would. Shit. I mean, damn.
So I seen you. So you got your IG following up to about what? Where you at now?
I think I'm like at 21, 22.
21,000. What do you think contributed to that?
People want to see a different side of DR. People are tired of the same narrative. You know, people are tired of people just showing the bad parts of DR. People are tired of that. You know, we're in a new stage. I mean, we've had one of the strongest economic growths in the last 20 years in all Latin America. I mean, you have public transportation that they don't even have in my hometown of Austin, Texas, with the teleférico, with the subway.
Yep.
You know. We're growing here. We're not perfect. We are not perfect. We still have a lot of we still have a lot to go. However, I think we're marching in the right direction.
I agree.
You know, and I'm excited to see where we're headed.
Me too.
We even have a new airline called Adaptation. Before you used to have to go to the U.S. Now you can go to like Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Central America without having to do a connecting flight on a Dominican airline.
Yep. Yep. So I've seen you recently make your transition from IG to YouTube. What made you do that?
Jay, no, for me, I think it's also being able to express myself a little bit more. Instead of just creating a 30-second reel where people can misconstrue it, I think I can, elaborate a little bit more on the topics that I'm talking about. Welcome to La Zona Colonial in Santo Domingo, where history and modern life blend seamlessly.
Is the Dominican Republic really dangerous? Is it safe to visit?
Give people a little bit more in depth. This is another foreigner right here,
Right.
walking around with his backpack, AirPods in,
Right.
no care in the world, right? You didn't see that when I was growing up,
Right.
right? So those are the changes.
Right.
But back to the YouTube question, being able to express myself, I think, is really what it is, because unfortunately, I feel like Instagram are like those sound bites,
Right.
right? And people take it a million different ways.
Yeah.
But if I can sit here and create a long form format and give you more in depth as to my life, as to what I did, things that can help you overcome some of the challenges of moving abroad, I think that it's better for me, because people won't be able to interpret it and kind of come to their own conclusion as a 15, 20-second reel.
So you probably just answered my next question. What's the difference in creating short form content and long form content, and which one do you like better?
To be honest, I'm liking the YouTube because I can express myself better. The editing's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
The Instagram, one thing about the Instagram that it's a love-hate, but one of the things that I'm noticing is that we're creating ADHD in people.
Yeah.
Because it's so short, it's so quick, and people want things now, right? And people don't want to watch, a 10-minute video. And one thing that I'm learning, one of the challenges is that because I've been on IG and I've been creating these reels, they're two different markets.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? The person that is on Instagram may not be on YouTube because they don't have the attention span, because now, my daughters, if you put a video on them and they get a commercial, it's like skip ads. It's like, hey, I had to watch commercials growing up.
Right.
Right? Yeah, and I feel like it's almost causing harm to these kids.
Right.
Because they want everything now.
Yeah.
It's instant gratification.
Yeah.
Whereas YouTube is like, you have to watch the video, you have to learn, you can educate people better, and give more well thought out answers.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about investing. I know we spoke about you doing some investing here. So what are some of your investments here, if you want to share them, and where are they located?
Yeah, so I invested in real estate out here.
Okay.
I've invested in different markets. I've invested in Santo Domingo. I've invested in Puerto Plata. I've invested in Las Terrenas. And I had invested briefly in Punta Cana, but to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Punta Cana, just because I feel like it's a utopia. But it's one of those things I was telling you about before. It's like, I didn't just move here and just started investing. It was part of my plan. All right, so when I started my businesses, I started saving money. Because investing here is a little bit more challenging than in the States, because you don't have those 3% down payments, those 0% down payments. Sometimes, if it's a new project, it can go from 20 to 30%. I mean, if it's a complete project, it's 20 to 30%. If it's a project, what's called en plano, which is like the pre-construction phase, some of them are asking for 50 to 80%. Right? So not everybody has that type of capital.
Right.
So it's all a learning experience. But real estate out here has been great, and unlike in the States, you don't see like housing crashes here like you do over there, because here interest rates are high and they're always maintained high, and properties will maintain a value, but you won't really see like decreases. Like if you try to buy something here, you're not going to be able to negotiate on a new project $30,000 off, $40,000 off like you would back in the States. Prices here are pretty concrete, pretty firm. They may stay level for a year or two, but they'll stay level and they'll go up. You won't see that fluctuation like you do back in the States.
Right.
Another thing about here is that most of these people own their places.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
They own it, right?
So it's not gonna crash.
Exactly.
Right.
So they own it. They usually stay in the same place. Like back home, we're used to being transient. But the U.S. is becoming a renter's market.
Right.
To be able to buy a place in the U.S. now has become extremely difficult.
Right.
Because you have like BlackRock that's buying up all these like houses, these private homes.
I heard
and stuff.
about that.
So, it's gonna be a renter's market.
Yeah. So what do you think is the best place for someone to invest? Because you said you don't really like Punta Cana because it's a utopia. Outside, because everybody wants to invest in Punta Cana, and everybody is investing in Punta Cana. What is the best place for investment for you?
Depends on you. It really depends on you because your investment is going to be different than my investment. Why? Because you may want a vacation rental, whereas I may want a place for just myself.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to want to look at, what the rentals are. And the reason why Punta Cana, like I say Punta Cana is dangerous is because they have so many projects and a lot of people are buying it for Airbnb.
That's
And the
problem.
one question I have for you, if you're thinking about buying an Airbnb, you have to be careful. And this is not to scare anybody or anything like that, but I'm going to look directly in the camera. And it's that you have to look at cities, or what other cities are doing across. Look at Atlanta. Look at New York City. Look at what Barcelona is doing in a couple years. They're banning Airbnb because it's drastically increased the cost of living for locals. And a lot of these buildings that you see around are designed for Airbnb. So if in Dominican Republic they ban Airbnb, will you still be able to make those monthly payments on your rental? Yes or no? If the answer is no, be careful.
Period. I agree with that. That's straightforward.
And I get a lot of messages about that, especially in Punta Cana. And I feel bad for those people. Why? Because in Punta Cana, you're investing with $1 million resorts. Your competition is a resort that's offering all inclusive with alcohol, food, and daily housekeeping. As an Airbnb host, that's hard to compete against.
Right. You're right.
And then the other thing is like you have so much inventory that if you want to sell it, why would I buy something used when I can buy something new?
Right.
And plus, like, to be honest with you, I moved to DR to be around my Dominican people. I don't feel like I get that authentic Dominican culture in Punta Cana.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you don't. So what are your future plans here in Dominican Republic, and do you see yourself here long term?
Look, this is how long term I see myself in Dominican Republic. That in the next 6 months, I'm gonna find out where I'm gonna be buried. That's how long. All right, I'm permanent here. Like, seriously, no joke. Like, I'm already looking for my gravesite. No, but here in DR, I'm gonna continue doing real estate. Like I told you, I sell real estate here, but I'm gonna get into the development side.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna start developing like apartment buildings and stuff like that here in DR. I hope to continue raising my family here in Dominican Republic, meeting individuals like yourself, and just living that more relaxed lifestyle. So I definitely see myself living here. Now, I will travel the world, but DR will be my base.
Gotcha.
That's how I see DR as my base. Like, this is where my kids are gonna go to school, this is where I'm gonna be, and I'll go visit other countries around the world, but it's hard. I mean, there's so many people that I know that have left Dominican Republic to go study and they come back and they're just like, it's something about this place, the warmth of its people that, has me coming back.
Is there anything from your American life that you're wanting to bring or hoping to bring to Dominican Republic, whether it's personally or culturally?
That's great, man. The one thing I miss about the U.S. is sports. I love sports. I miss being able to go to a football game. I miss being able to go to an NBA game. I miss that stuff. But like when you really think about it, like like culture-wise, like even like the food, like what is American food? You tell me. Because you can't say hot dogs because they're German.
You can't say pizza because it's Italian.
You can't say hamburgers because they're French.
Yeah.
And actually they're German too.
Yeah. I guess the only thing you can say is soul food, mac and cheese, collard greens.
There you go.
Things like that. But,
and that's the South.
And that's the South, exactly. That's just the South, right.
So like that, so I don't really miss much from it.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like, I feel like if I leave here, I'm gonna miss more of my typical stuff, like the food, because here I can tell you what a typical Dominican dish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna miss the people.
Right.
But I think sports, and that's really it, because, sports really, man.
Yeah. I had a guy hit me up the other day. Matter of fact, 2 days ago and said, hey, where can I watch the FSU game, the Florida State College game? I mean, maybe go to Applebee's or some of these Fridays or Chili's. Maybe you can go there and watch it. I don't know. I don't think I haven't seen where they personally show those, like, unless they're championship games, like the SEC championship. I don't know where you can go and watch them.
But I think that's a great business model though, because you do have a lot of people that, like I said, that go to the U.S. And adapt that like culture of sports culture, and they come back here and they crave it.
Right.
Especially like university, like kids that go to university, and they get into like the college football, and they can't find that. Because I know a lot of people that do that. Because like Saturdays here, it's one of my struggles to go watch the Longhorns, Hook 'em Horns.
So you can't find it?
I know he's Roll Tide.
So the last question is how do you measure success from a personal standpoint?
That's a great question. it depends on the individual because each person's different. I never base my success off of somebody else. I never compare myself to anyone else. It's about what I set my goals to be. It's what I go after in life.
Okay.
I constantly have a yearly checkup on myself. I constantly have, like, people have business meetings. I have meetings with my wife to make sure that we're working towards our goal, that we're improving. You know, that it's like our business, like our family plan. Like, where do we want to see our family in a couple of years, and work towards that. I think too many people are focused on external factors and people that are not really going to help them achieve what they want to achieve, and that holds them back.
Right.
Whereas I'm trying to be the best version of myself and what I can do. You know, I can't cook like Jay, so I can't compare myself to Jay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not I'd be depressed my whole life. You know? Right? So you have to know what you want in life. You have to go after it, and you have to base it on yourself. You can't allow anybody else to tell you what to do.
Right.
So I think that's important. Stay focused on what you want to do in life.
I think the answer, what you're trying to just be the best version of yourself. If you're the best version of yourself, then you know that's success.
And don't compete against others. Compete against yourself.
Right.
You know, like the only competition I have is who I am today, and like who I was yesterday. That's it. Nobody else. I can't compete because we're all different. We all have different abilities and capabilities, and if we are busy focusing on, oh my God, I want to be like Kobe Bryant, Kobe's unique. That's why Kobe was Kobe, because nobody trained like Kobe.
Right.
Right? I don't know if you ever watched that documentary about them, like the Dream Team, like where it was like LeBron and them, and they started interviewing, and that's when like LeBron like really picked it up. He's like, man, this guy's in the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Whereas they were coming from the club.
Right.
Right? But why was Kobe Kobe? Because of how he trained, how he ate, that Mamba mentality, right? And most people want that, especially today in days, you have to understand that instant gratification does not exist.
It doesn't.
And if you're wanting things done now, in order to be successful in business, the first year you're gonna struggle, you're gonna go in debt, you're gonna do these things. And if you're not willing to go past that year or two, don't even get in business. That's just, I don't know, I see too many people like starting businesses and be like, man, I didn't make $1 million. How long you in business? 3 months. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah. The same with YouTube. Oh man, I didn't get this many views. How long you been doing it? How many videos you got? I've been doing it for a month. I only put out 2 videos.
Well, that's a good example.
Right.
I can't compare my YouTube channel to Jay's. He's been doing it for a while. He's consistent, right? If I base my videos off his views, or like let's say Jamie's, for example, I'm gonna consider myself a loser. And I'm not a loser. Why? Because I'm starting out. I'm getting used to the scene. I'm used to IG, so I'm adjusting to myself. So I have to compete with myself, and that's it.
Right.
And it's not to discredit you, but like you've been in the game for a long time, you know? So I can't compare. You're a veteran.
Right.
I'm a rookie.
Okay.
I just got drafted. I'm making a league minimum. He's making the big bucks.
All right, so man, this has been great, man. That was my last question. Like I say, man, it was nice having you here, bro.
Thanks for having me.
And definitely check out his IG, which is Jay Gives Back, JGIVESBACK. Same thing on YouTube. I'm gonna put it all right here on the screen too, so you guys go check him out. And I could say one thing that we're doing that's not Dominican. We're at a Calmado and we're drinking water. So I'm finna go get us some Presidente at least while we at this Calmado, and we're gonna drink a Presidente before we leave. But guys, remember, you got something to say before we go?
No, I just want to say thanks, man, for what you're doing. And last thing is like the expat thing. Thank you for adjusting to our culture.
You welcome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
because like I don't mind you being like saying expat, whatever, but you adapted.
Right.
And so I wanted to make that clear because I didn't want people to take it the wrong way, the context.
Right.
You know, because you're not coming out here being privileged. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I say too, this to add to that, I think that's why some people come here and have a hard time is because they don't adapt. They come here and they either treat it like a vacation, a party, and even though the Dominicans party all the time, but it's not like on 100 every day. You know what I'm saying?
We do work, man.
Right. That's important, guys. Adapt to the culture. So until then, remember, always keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Always live in the present, because that's the only way you're gonna live your best life. And we out. Peace.
Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Something you and me, oh. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Jumping, flexing, no.